And like I say, this is going to be a heck of a show because I've been waiting to go back here for a while. Back where, I hear you all saying. Back to CERN, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I told you some time ago that CERN, albeit one of my favourite subjects to talk about in recent years, it's something that I refuse to talk about just for the sake of it. And what I mean is, when you talk about CERN, there is a lot of attention comes your way. And if I was to talk about CERN all the time, I could probably get 10 times the traffic than I normally do over on YouTube. I could probably grow the audience nightly over here as well. The only problem being, there's only so much you can say about CERN. And especially in recent times, because as we'll go on to look at in a moment, things haven't exactly been as busy as they have been in previous years. However, one of the things that I remember well from my time working with Anthony Patch was the vast amounts of data that is produced every time that they do a run in any of the rings, anytime they're colliding any particles. It's hard for us to fathom the amount of raw data that they actually collect. If you cast your mind back to the finding of the much talked about Higgs boson, the actual physics run that came on, the one where they literally detected the Higgs, something they had theorized about forever in particle physics, the holy grail, the God particle. Well, it was months. It took months and months and months for them to actually confirm it and realize that they had achieved that holy grail in particle physics. So every time they've been doing runs, all of this data keeps on building up, it keeps on backing up, and there's projects around the world. In fact, you can even give up some of your computing power to work through some of that raw data that's stored on vast amounts of servers underneath CERN. And it's within that data that I want to take you today, because they have made another discovery. Yes, they have discovered new particles that they discovered some time ago, but only now are they coming to the realization, are they doing the math and realizing, oh, by golly, guess what? We found something. So there is something new to talk about at CERN. There's actually a few things we can talk about to do with CERN. I think the best place for us to start would be the discovery of not one, not even two. You're thinking three, right? But what if I was to tell you 4 new particles? And they're not just any little particles. They're quirky little things. Boom, boom. So I take you over to this story here from, it's The Conversation. There's a lot of people having a conversation about this today, let me assure you. But it says, this month is a time to celebrate. CERN has just announced the discovery of 4 brand new particles at the Large Hadron Collider in Geneva. Now, this is quite exciting, folks, because one of the things that Anthony would talk about when we done the shows on CERN was the potential for tetraquarks and even petraquarks. And the tetraquarks are made up of 4 quarks, okay? And it's 4 of these new tetraquarks that they've detected. And quarks, for people, you don't need to listen, I'm not going to get too technical here. Anthony is the one that knows the deep, deep science. I'm the one that was barely able to translate it into something we could almost understand, okay? But you get 6 types of quarks, and it's quite funny because I'll never forget this. You get the up, the down, the charm, the strange, yes, a strange quark, and the top and the bottom. And these things are really important because they basically go a long way to making up all of our fundamental particles out there. From electrons to protons to neutrons, a combination of quarks and varying amounts of them. And to make it even more confusing, you get quarks and anti-quarks, right? But we'll get back into this here. It says this means that the LHC has now found a total of 59 new particles, in addition to the Nobel Prize winning Higgs boson, since it started colliding protons, and that's particles that make up the atomic nucleus, along with neutrons in 2009. Now, excitingly, some of these new particles were expected based on our established theories, and some were altogether more surprising. I used to talk with Anthony from time to time about theoretical particles. And we often talk about the metaphysical, the kind of the woo, as I like to call it. And the fact that we ourselves, in many ways, are like little intention generators. Many times have you heard it said that we help to create our own reality. And me and Anthony would talk long into the night sometimes about the phenomenon as to where if these scientists predicted finding a particle, be it the Higgs, be it one of these tetraquarks they predicted, or just anything, could it be a case that over time, if you look long enough and hard enough for something that you've come up with in your own mind's eye, eventually you may actually be the one that creates it? Does that make sense? You know, if scientists believe strongly enough, theoretically there should be particle X. And when you look for 10 years and you eventually find particle X, does that mean it was always there? Or is it 10 years of looking for it that brought it into creation? Something for you to think about out there before we get back to the story. I'm sorry, I digress. I get excited when we talk about CERN. I do. Not that kind of excited. I'm not that bad. Maybe. The LHC's goal is to explore the structure of matter at the shortest distances and highest energies ever probed in the lab, testing our current best theory of nature, the standard model of particle physics. And the LHC has delivered the goods that enabled scientists to discover the Higgs boson and the last missing piece of the model. That said, the theory is still far from being fully understood. And the Higgs boson is, in layman's terms, the particle that gives everything mass. If it wasn't for the Higgs boson, all of this would be that energetic, illusory reality that it truly is. It's the Higgs that gives it the solidity or the illusion of solidity. Hey. So it says, one of the most troublesome features is its description of the strong force which holds the atomic nucleus together. Now, the nucleus is made up of protons and neutrons, which are in turn each composed of 3 tiny particles called quarks. And there are 6 different types of quarks: the up, down, the charm, the strange, that's my favourite one, the top, and the bottom. Top, probably my favourite one there. And if we're going for up, strange, top. If we switched the strong force off for a second, all matter would immediately disintegrate into a soup of loose quarks, a state that existed for a fleeting instant at the beginning of the universe. Now, don't get us wrong, the theory of the strong interaction, pretentiously called quantum chromodynamics, is a very solid footing. It describes how quarks interact through the strong force by exchanging particles called gluons. And you can think of a gluon as analogous or the more familiar photon. And that's the particle of light and carrier of the electromagnetic force. Now, I'm not going to get all technical and try and impress you with big words and things that it might seem like I know what I'm talking about. Because at the best of times, I'm just connecting dots here and going by the memory of what Anthony told me. And I always tell people, check out Anthony Patch first if you want to know anything about CERN. I believe he's over on Twitch now. I think YouTube came after him. terrible, but I think you can still get them on Twitch, D Live as well. But the reason I've not been talking about CERN much recently, until we got news of these new particles coming in, okay? And these particles, again, it's not like they done a run last week and they found them last week. This is something that came from, in fact, when you dig into this, it's one of the first runs ever done where they actually found this. They've seen the telltale energetic fingerprint of energies that they were looking for, okay? And the reason I've not been talking about it much this year is because of this. There's major changes going on at CERN, and they call it the Long Shutdown 2. Now, it's crazy here, right? Because if you read this here, it says between now and the end of 2020. Now, this article came out on June 20th last year, okay? So from June 20th until the end of 2020 is how long it took to actually slowly wind back the cryogenic freezing. Slowly bring it to a point where they could do the upgrades that they're going to do. And it works the other way as well, because it takes them months then, when they have done the upgrades, to cool it right back down again. Right back down to almost as cold as it is out there in space. Why? So that you can have those quantum effects happening. You want everything nice and cold and chilled and protected, just the way that it's nice and cold and chilled in a big D wave. And just the accelerating of these particles in a ring, in a circle, is mind-blowing. When you do this, when you accelerate protons, lead, ions of gold, that kind of thing, the stuff that they do at the LHC, and so many other particle accelerators around the world, this whole process of it going in a circle and it going round and round and round is phenomenal, because it literally produces the same kind of energies that we see getting flung out of stars. And part of the LHC, part of the CERN experiments called Cloud, and it was mind-boggling to me, because they were literally taking some of this gamma radiation, the X-rays, this cosmic rays that were being produced, the type of things you see out in space and quasars and stars and things like that. And then they were funneling this down into an ionized chamber of cloud. And it was basically an experiment to see what the cosmic rays from space do to our atmosphere. Some of the science that's going on there, folks, that we know about is mind-blowing, and we could talk about it forever. And then there's the science that potentially they're doing. Potentially, because I don't know. Potentially they're doing the kind of stuff that we would really want to know about. There's a big part of me thinks that at some point, some experiment at one part of that facility, they've got to have been playing about with some kind of temporal time type shenanigans, right? Right? I know, maybe I've seen too many sci-fi shows, I get it. But when you're talking about them telling us publicly that they've got a machine that can literally rip open portals to other dimensions, then I think pretty much, anything's on the table at that point. But if we look at this here, remember, this is going back to last year, because the shutdown's still ongoing right now. Okay? So back last year, they closed off the PS booster, the LINAC, that's the linear accelerator. They closed off the PS injection area. So there's heaps of loops before it gets to the main one. And you've got to slowly cool them all down, or heat them up, actually, in this case. Till you can actually get in and get fixing it. Upgrade the magnets so that next time it's even more powerful. Even more collisions. Even more luminosity, as they call it. And there's more luminosity. Think of it as like this. There's more light because there's more things hitting into one another. It's easy. It's not too difficult when you kind of strip back all the crazy big words. And if somebody like me can get a general understanding of it, just a general one. I don't kid anyone on. I don't kid myself on that I know it fully. I tell you, folks, it's really interesting, and it really is quite accessible. With not, you don't have to have a PhD to know what you need to know to get a general idea of particle physics and just how crazy it is. Crazy, and it's set to get well crazier, and I'll tell you why in a moment. But this is the closures here. It says the commissioning of the accelerators will begin this summer, starting with gradual hardware commissioning. The first four beams, or the first beams from Linux 4 are expected December this year. So that was December last year. But it says between now and the end of 2027 of the LHC's 8 sectors will be cooled down. And electrical quality tests, power tests, and a long campaign of quench training for the magnets will follow. And a week of tests with low-intensity beams will take place at the LHC at the end of September 2021. That's the date we need to be aware of. That's the big date for me, because that's when we'll be getting back close to, we'll be calibrating. That's what we'll be doing. We'll be warming up. We'll be turning up the power gradually. Not we, not us. I wish it was us. But that's when they'll be starting to kick it back into full mode. When, like I say, more collisions, more data, more luminosity. And does that equate to a bigger tear in our fabric of space and time? I've heard people say many times that CERN changed something in 2012, and I'll be honest with you, I used to roll my eyes at it, and I used to think, oh, come on, man, you're kidding me on. What could it have done, you know? Here I am, 11 years on. Is it 11 years on? 2012, yeah, 11 years on. No, 9 years on. Dang, I can't count anymore. 9 years on, and I'm telling you right now, folks, I don't know. Maybe it did do something. Because whether it was CERN or whether it was something else, it's hard to get away with how different the world is now to what it was pre-2012. I mean, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but it does seem a whole load wackier, a whole load more glitchy, and just a whole heap of stuff going on that I can't quite put my finger on. Does that mean that CERN did do something in 2012? I don't know. I really don't know. But if I had to, like, draw up a list of suspects as to what might be manipulating reality and what might be causing some woo, oh, CERN would be on my list. It would definitely be on my list. And like I say, what type of science are they doing there that they're not telling us about? Now, I get it. Remember that they had the students that put on the cloaks and they had like the kind of ritual out in the grounds. That's comical. And listen, if I'd been a physics student going to CERN that summer, I'd done exactly the same thing. They were trolling people like me, folks. And they got us. They got us good. Hook, line and sinker. But that doesn't mean that there's nothing creepy going on there. You know, the Vatican, they've got a representative at CERN. The Vatican. What's that all about? And they are the ones that said that they were literally opening doorways to other dimensions, and they had that picture where they were holding the key, remember? And then you had Santa, or at least I call him Santa, him that had the Bond and Mandela sign on, trolling us. Now, was he trolling us? Was he wanting us to think that CERN and the D-Wave and that stuff plays a role in Mandela? Or does it? I wish I could definitively tell you, ladies and gentlemen. And the truth is, I don't think anyone can. And I don't think even the top scientists at CERN can tell us truly what they may or may not have done. You cast your mind back to something like the Manhattan Project, where literally it was 50-50 if we were going to destroy the planet or not. But they took all of 1 iota of a Planck second to look at each other and go, let's do it, press the button. I suspect that's the same attitude that we have at CERN as well. But what if? What if we do this? Yeah, but what if? Press the button. Now the quark gluon condensate, the strangelets. Ah, yes, indeed, the strangelets that Anthony came up with. And then we had real physicists from over in CERN talking about them. The potential for a rogue particle getting away from them. One that could head towards the core of the planet and cause a whole host of problems that would eventually end in our demise. This is a real thing that these scientists were kind of weighing up. Or should we do it? Should we not? And they've done it. Who knows what's been happening at CERN? Who knows how many levels there are to CERN? CERN, the particle collider, is just its latest iteration. It's always been the centre of European nuclear research. And how many underground levels are there? I'm asking the question because I don't know. I certainly don't know. Are there more than just the kind of levels down to the 300-foot mark where that ring sits? Does it keep going down? They used to model nuclear explosions in there. How deep down do you need to go for that kind of thing? I don't know. It's all questions that need answering. I provide, you decide, and we'll come back on the other side of this. Forget about the 4 new tetraquarks that CERN have come up with, because we're going to be travelling further afield and we're going to be getting the latest on the Chinese super collider. Remember that? Yeah, it's a vague memory I've got of something about a Chinese super collider, and with everything going on in the world the past 18 months, yep, you guessed it. That's been ticking along just nicely. Yep, work is continuing on the Chinese super collider that will make CERN look like a water pistol in comparison to whatever type of shenanigans they've got planned for that. Join me on the other side, folks. More to come on our journey down the CERN hole. Oh, yes. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Second part of today's Kev Baker show. And we're going back into the realms of CERNology. Yes, indeed. You know, over the years, my thinking on that location has changed. It's gone back and forth. It's gone all the way from being one of the most evil contraptions that the Illuminati and the dark side have come up with, all the way to maybe we're just worrying much about nothing. However, I think it's somewhere in between. I think there are people there that do have nefarious intentions. I don't think it's everyone. It's like anything else, ladies and gents. I think it would be highly compartmentalized. I would imagine that there's alphabet agencies kicking about there. There's probably Ministry of Defence, the Department of Defence, DARPA, companies that we haven't heard of that are doing their own sub-projects. And never forget, anyway, CERN could be like the biggest distraction ever. And I only say that because there's so many other particle accelerators around the world that are able to achieve almost everything that CERN can do. I say almost everything because it'd be a lie to say that they could do everything that CERN does. That's what makes CERN so important, so significant. But don't take anything away from Brookhaven Labs, Fermi Labs, Berkeley, Los Alamos, sorry. We've got one there as well. And then let's get into the ones in the UK. France, Germany, Australia. They're all around the world. They're everywhere. Now, what are they doing? Well, yes, in one hand, they're absolutely doing what they're saying they're doing. They're trying to prove the standard model, and they're trying to peer back in time to the earliest moments before or just after the Big Bang. And there is a lot of physics there that they're doing. But again, it's that other side of it. Can't ignore the fact it's got Shiva sitting out there, both the destroyer and creator of worlds, you know? You can't get away from the fact that they're parchments, like animal skins, old stuff. It looks like Sumerian type tablets or your kind of Dead Sea Scroll type stuff. And they're all stretched out and they've done experiments with them. What's that all about? You know, what are they doing there? And we always say nothing new under the sun, right? Nothing new under the sun. I don't think particle accelerators are new technology. I think there's been ways of achieving this, other ways in the past. You know, I'm not saying this is something, but when you look at somewhere like Stonehenge and all these stone circles, you have to wonder what's happening on these solstices when the energetic particles are coming in from the sun and then they're going into that circular structure. You know, not much difference there from particles getting souped around in a highly charged state and colliding. I'm just saying, it's just one of those things we can sit and talk about and wonder, you know. But do I think everyone that works at CERN is in on some big secret to open a doorway to hell? I don't. I really don't. But do I think there could be a couple of people there with just that intention? Yes, I do. I really, really do. And that's one thing that you can't separate the science from the spiritual. It sounds weird, I know. It really does sound weird. But in the same way that the magicians of yestertime, the likes of the John Dees of this world, with the kind of magic he was doing, actually, there's parallels to the kind of technological magic they're working at places like CERN and other very modern machines as well. And we're not even content with CERN, are we? Because we're always wanting to go bigger and better. And usually it's America. Usually America has to have the biggest and the best, right? And potentially, maybe they do. Hypothetically, you know, the Texas Super Collider that was getting built, and then, they just stopped it, you know. They'd done the tunnels for it, but then, we'll just stop that. Put a lock on the door, nothing to see here. But China, they're building a massive one. Absolutely massive. And if we take a look at this here, this comes from May last year. I don't remember covering this at the time. Maybe we did. I don't think so, though. But it says China's making good progress in building the world's largest super collider. And amongst everything that was going on last year, they've got time to be doing this. Who knew? So it says research and development for the first batch of key equipment for the world's most powerful electron collider, the Circular Electron Positron Collider, the CEPC in China, has made solid progress, according to a leading scientist on the project Sunday. Wang Yifang, director of the Institute of High Energy Physics under the Chinese Academy of Sciences in Beijing, who is also a deputy to the National People's Congress, made the comments to the Global Times on the sidelines of the ongoing National Two Sessions in Beijing. The overall development of the CEPC project is moving forward smoothly, with some of the first batch of equipment reaching design standards. So it says, here, this is the important bit. It says, the CEPC project will reportedly cost 35 billion yuan, and that's 5.5 or 5.05 billion US dollars. And it will have a circumference of 100 kilometers, with a center mass energy up to 200 giga electron volts, both setting a world record. Now, Chinese scientists are eyeing the completion of this construction by 2030. That's not too far down the road, folks. So the conceptual design for the CEPC passed international inspections in September 2019, and scientists from the US, Europe and Japan have participated in designing the project and will work on the building process and conduct research with the collider. The US, Europe and Japan all working with the Chinese, eh? So it says the Large Hadron Collider, the Swiss project near Geneva, is currently the world's largest and most powerful particle collider, and reportedly the largest machine in the world. Makes you wonder if there is a bigger one somewhere, right? That almost, you could read that as almost hinting that there is something larger out there. But it's semantics, it's no biggie. In a bid to maximise the project's service life, scientists are mulling upgrading the electron-positron collider in around 2040 into a proton collider, Wang noted. And by then, the centre mass energy for the CEPC will have reached about 100 tera electron volts, 7 times as powerful as the Switzerland project. Now, see that there? In my mind, and again, it's just a thought, it's just an idea. I don't want it to influence how you think, but the way I've been thinking about this, even back when I was working with Tony at the time, was it suggests to me that at some point somebody's done the math, right? It's as if they know they have to get to a certain power level. They have to get to a certain energy, for argument's sake, to rip a hole in space and time, to create a manageable, workable portal. And it's as if they've done the math and they've figured out, oh, dang it, we can only get so much power out of the one we've got at CERN. And to get the power we need, somebody's done the math and gone, okay, we need 100-kilometre ring. And we need to be doing it with electron on electron, or proton on proton. And we need to be making energies 7 times bigger than they are now. That's what it feels like to me. It's like, what are they trying to achieve? What's at that holy grail? What's at that level they're trying to get to? What do they think they're going to crack open there? There's something bigger going on as well. As much as I like to keep it logical and stay away from the rabbit holes out there, but part of being logical is looking at everything that's in front of you. The symmetry video that they done, the black and the white, the creepiness. Remember the devil, he looked like Obama? Remember that? We'll dig that up. I remember that. He even smelled like Obama. It was like smelling of sulfur, remember? Am I joking? CERN, that was called Symmetry, wasn't it? Symmetry, Devil, Obama. Let's see. Images. Where is he? Oh, there he is. There he is. There's a boy there. I'll drop that over in the TFR chat room right now. But I remember all that stuff. I remember all that. And then you had the opening of was it the Goddard tunnel? CERN tunnel opening. And that was really creepy, wasn't it? Remember that was the thing where we had like the horned beings? And we had like the big creepy giant babies and big images of portals. And I mean, are they punking us? Are they trolling us? Are they? I don't think so. It's a bit of a distance to go to kind of have a laugh at a bunch of, what would you call it, conspiracy theorists online, right? My word, that guy there, he actually looks like the Q shaman. I'm going to post that in the chat room. It isn't, folks, but I tell you what, bloody looks like him. There it is. I'll post. It does look a bit like him, though, I must say. A wee bit. Just a wee bit. Anyway, oh, and there's follow the white rabbit, look. See? I tell you, folks, if this isn't evidence that we're in some kind of glitchy matrix, I really don't know. But back to my point, I don't think they do all that signalling. I don't think they do all that ceremony, all that ritual, all of that stuff just for giggles. Now, the one where they were doing like the hooded kind of ceremony out the front of CERN, and it was like the middle of summer and the place was closed down and it was summer school. That, like I say, that for me, I'm 99% sure that was just a bunch of youngsters full of wine and probably PPP and getting up to shenanigans and watching all sorts of videos online about the place where they were staying. And they thought, oh, we could have a laugh with this. Listen, if they weren't punking us, they should have been, because that's what I would have done. Absolutely. You got to be able to laugh, folks. You got to be able to poke fun at things. But what is it? What are they doing? What do you think they're doing? Is it some kind of time travel? Teleportation? Is it to do with member Geordie Rose talking about the resources that would come back through these portals? You're maybe thinking, but Kev, yeah, that's Geordie Rose and the D wave. That's nothing to do with CERN. But it is. Because that's another thing that should blow your mind as well. When you look at a qubit inside a D wave, it's a circle of superconductive metal. And that means that energy or particles, charged particles, can go both ways at the same time. Superposition, see? And then, well, what is CERN? If it's not a circle with charged particles counter-rotating at the same time. Like a giant qubit. I know. I'm not saying I know what's going on there. I'm telling you, though, there's plenty to be thinking about. And I can see how it's become one of the more clickbaity topics of interest. Because how can you not be interested in something like this? Especially when there's that unknown, a void, a gap in the information. We've got all this stuff, all this woo from Shiva to tunnel ceremonies and black and white symmetry movies with good versus evil, and they're standing there taking photographs of them holding big ancient keys, talking about open portals to other dimensions. And how can you not start to speculate and wonder what's going on there? And it's not our fault our imagination maybe sometimes runs wild. I think all of the more spectacular kind of theories me and Anthony put together and talked about at the time, from the connecting of CERN to Saturn via Birkeland currents, I still stand by that information because I could see where it was coming from, but it never happened. It never happened. But that doesn't take away from the fact that they could well be doing something there. And again, though, at the same time, I would say to anyone out there, it's like anything else. Anything can be a distraction if you let it. I say it's very interesting to look at CERN, but don't get too bogged down on it. The only reason being, whether it's CERN that bogs you down or some other topic, everything else is all still going on round about you. And sometimes when you concentrate too much on the one thing, you start to see things that aren't there. You start to get affected by confirmation bias. And like I say, you end up distracting yourself from other stuff that's going on. And that's why it's been nice today to kind of talk about CERN, with the fact that they found 4 new exotic particles. Yes, indeed. The tetraquarks. And a couple of notes here. What do these have? They've got 4 quarks. And that's 2 quarks and 2 anti-quarks. Yes, indeed. So, some CERNology for our opening show of the week. I hope you enjoyed a little bit of that. And if there is anything more that breaks on CERN, not physically breaks, but any new information, I'll certainly I'll be here. I'll bring it to you. I just can't talk about it time and time again when really, it's been said. It's already out there. If something happens, I'll be the first one to cover it. Don't you worry about that, folks. So we're going to move on now. We're going to move.